All right, we are officially ready to kick this meeting off, and we've got Anna calling in from the road. And Anna, so I know you're traveling, so we'll take advantage of as much time as you could give us right now. What have you got for us right now, Anna?
Well, what we're doing here is we're taking on some huge actions with the World Court and the World Bank. And they're the first of a number of actions that we have to undertake to regain control of the world financial situation. If we don't do that, then it's going to have very bad. So it's a prime priority for me right now as fiduciary to be working these major matters to be able to regain some rational administration of the government apparatus, because there hasn't been any for a number of years. They've been doing all sorts of things that are just not even rational. And so the corruption it's beyond the point of just political corruption. It's corruption of the institutions and the bureaucratic processes within the institutions. So it's sort of like intervening on an illness that has caused real damage to the very infrastructure of government. And it's been caused by this privatization of government functions. So this is it's just an amazing situation that the entire world is in as a result of the Brits and the Romans co-conspiring to create this imaginary world in which corporations have been substituted for actual governments. I don't know if that makes sense to everyone listening tonight, but if it doesn't, be aware that governmental services corporations have substituted themselves for the actual government that we're owed, and which we're responsible for staffing and creating for ourselves. So they reduced everything down to voting once every 4 years. And in the process, we have become used to that system of, oh, gee, well, it's time to vote. Maybe I'll make my way down to the polling place and actually do so this year. And we haven't had to think about government. We haven't had to operate our own government or operate our own courts for many years. And as a result, the private interests have gotten involved and have basically commandeered the government. We're being run by corporations, and those corporations are influencing everything that happens. One of the key parts of this is that originally corporations were banned from making political contributions. But several years ago, the rules were changed by the Congress, and suddenly there's no limit to corporate donations. So any corporation that's big enough to make $100 million contribution towards something, which is exactly what Mark Zuckerberg did during the last presidential elections, gets their way. And then it just becomes a bidding war between super wealthy billionaires as to what's going to happen in quote unquote our government. They have privatized the government, which is a public institution. So this is the crux of the matter. In the process of doing that, they've had plenty of collusion from banks. And the banks have been colluding with the corporate interests, and they have then been donating large amounts of money to whatever causes the politicians and the corporatists wanted, and we've had to pay the bill. So it's not supposed to work that way. They're supposed to be getting their money from us with our permission and knowledge, and they're supposed to be operating in a totally different construct. So now that the lawful governments have returned to station and we have our assemblies up in motion and we have our federation organized, we're in a position to bring it back to a lawful government and a lawful means of functioning in the public instead of being at the mercy of these wealthy corporate interests. And you can see how they did this, and you can see which corporate interests were responsible for this undermining of the government of the people. And it was basically the same old 19th century rats, the Industrial Revolution people that did this. This has been going on a long time. And it was the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds and, you know, the Carnegies and the Vanderbilts and all these other super rich families that were involved as kind of 19th century robber barons. And so we have now unraveled all that history. We now know who's who and who did what and when and where. And as a result, we're better able to respond to it and to overturn it, which we're in the process of doing. Unfortunately, at each step, as we've become better informed and have a better sense of what happened and why and how we can straighten it out and fix it, we've also encountered a greater and greater and greater debt load of responsibility for our own government. And the banking system has been very difficult because we've had to build our own banking system. And when we started out, we just thought it was going to be at a wholesale level, bank to bank. Then we got saddled with having to establish an entire retail network and, you know, take it down to the level of individual transactions at you know, stores all over the place. And then we had to expand it beyond our country to the entire world because there was nothing to replace the central bank system. And from there, we've had to expand again to provide the land recording services so that people can declare and get back on the land if they're wherever they are on the planet. And there's been so much that we've had to do that, strictly speaking, we couldn't anticipate. It's just been a tremendous, almost exponential increase in the work that we had to undertake. You know, we started out thinking it was just an American problem. We started out with the idea that it was, you know, we're going to reconstruct and restore our government, right? We're going to fill in the missing pieces and restore our own government, and that'll fix everything. But we were wrong. The rot had proceeded ahead of us, and the corruption and the substitution of corporations for lawful governments had proceeded, and it had taken over most of the world. It had already unlawfully converted 17 of the countries in Western Europe. It had unlawfully converted the government of Japan. Everywhere that the United States has had its fingers in anything, Korea, Vietnam, Libya, Iraq, Iran, wherever they've had influence, they have ultimately unlawfully converted the government into a government services corporation. And so it is not just a problem for our country, it's a grotesque problem for the entire world. And because they used our country as their pirate base, a lot of the cleanup and a lot of the work that has to be done from our country. We become responsible by default, even though we were victims of the same crimes. We wind up with the records. We wind up with the authorities. We wind up with the assets. And it's up to us to make it right. So it's just an unimaginably large problem, and it affects multiple systems. It affects elections. It affects food chains, literally, supply chains. It affects international credit. It impacts our ability to conduct commerce. All these things are intertwined and interdependent, and we have to address it all at once at a vastly greater scale than we ever imagined, in order for us to have that transition that will be survivable. We have all sorts of dangers on every. Do nothing, then yes.
Sorry, go ahead. You cut out for just a second, but you're back.
I say that we have gigantic problems on every side. If we do nothing, the economy will implode the same way the Weimar Republic imploded via hyperinflation. If we take action, there's a good chance that we can get ahead of it and transition into a different economy based on different currencies and different resources. So that's what we're working on, is just to be able to transition the entire world economy over to an asset-backed currency system and provide the prepaid credit to make up for the loss of the Federal Reserve note, debt note system. So that's what we've been working on. We've been working continuously on this one ever expanding project. 3 years, 4 years now. The actual work on the bank started in 2007. So we had already been working on it for 15 years when we announced that we were doing this. And immediately after that, we got saddled with all the extra work that I just mentioned. But I mean, the good news is that we're getting the user-friendly, super icon control panel set up so that people can use the bank online. We have the system now where we can generate the cards and we can generate the different individual QRC codes that will unlock your accounts. And we have it fully funded, which has been a pain in the butt, but we did it. And now we're going back into the phase of more recoupment. So we're taking on the World Bank. We're bringing things before the World Court. We are hammering things out with the British. And we're working hard on taking care of the issues that we have with numerous banking institutions around the world regarding their presumptions and their practices with regard to trusteeship issues. So we've got the trusteeship interest and we have the actual ownership interest, both of which have to be addressed. Because when we're wearing one hat, we're the owners and operators and it's stuff in our possession. When we're wearing another hat, we're the trustees of the entire world. And we have another whole set of obligations and work that has to be done. So in case you're wondering what I've been doing, most of it has been to work on all of these issues, which are my actual job, right? And so I haven't had as much time to deal with assembly questions and assembly issues. And some of those things have gotten quite out of hand. You'll be seeing that the North Carolina Assembly that was organized by Dominic Bastella is being dissolved. We have some people there that, for whatever reason, just went grossly off the ranch and who have been spreading just absolutely reckless, irresponsible, untrue, just slanderous garbage. Okay. So we have to put an end to that. It evolved to a point where certain people were talking about lynching. And, this is a peaceful, lawful, adult, responsible undertaking. And we just simply cannot have that kind of activity going on. It endangers the individuals that are saying these things. It endangers the people that they're threatening. And it endangers the specific assembly that they belong to. But it also threatens our entire effort because our guarantee is that we can peaceably assemble. Understand that word, peaceably. If people want to talk irresponsibly about lynching other members of their assembly because they can't get along with them or they can't agree with them or they have some personal problem with them, nonetheless, we can't have that happen. So it's not a reflection on Dominic. It's a reflection on those individuals only. It's certainly made it more difficult for Dominic to carry on. And he needs to be away from being a coordinator or having anything to do with coordination for his own personal reasons. And so that whole group is going to be dissolved, and the people that have belonged to it will have to make decisions about whether they're going to continue to participate or not. Hopefully they will realize the errors that they have been subjected to, and they'll get back on the horse and get back in the saddle and continue on to restore the lawful government of North Carolina. At this point, there was just nothing there that was working out. Nothing was getting done. And there was, just nothing but discord and lies and slander and more garbage every day, leading up to violence. And no, we can't have that. So North Carolina will be under the care of its other three coordinators that remain, and they will be holding the weekly meetings and directing the organization forward. There have been some other incidents that are just strange, things that have been going on all over the country, but I won't mention those now. Just everybody be very aware that there are powerful banking interests that have an interest in undermining what we're doing, because it will ultimately mean that your money comes back to you and control of your assets, control of your government will come back to you. And as long as I'm mentioning that, I ought to mention a couple of other issues that coordinators have brought forward over the past couple of weeks. One is the idea that you're suddenly going to get control of your state trust. And, you know, if there's just a few people, you're still going to get control of your state trust. That's incorrect. Like every other part of this, you don't get control of it until you're ready. And, you know, that you have enough resources and enough people, enough talent organized so that you can actually do the function. So there are some people that are thinking, oh, well, you know, we're going to keep the number of people involved in the assembly at a bare minimum, you know. We're just going to be 6 or 7 people that are going to rule the world, right? We're going to get all the money and we're going to get the state trust and we're going to rule as a little oligarchy over the state and the people. And no, that's not how this goes, and that's not how it works, and that's not how it's going to be administered. You need to realize that the more people that you get involved in the assembly, the better for everybody, and the faster this can all go down. So, you know, if you've got people thinking like this and thinking that they're going to become little oligarchs just because they happen to be there, no, that's not the way it's going to happen. You just like you have to set up and actually be able to perform the functions of a state assembly, you're going to have to set up and be able to function as a state trust administrator. So there is no benefit to anybody by restricting the number of people in an assembly. It's the opposite. The more people that you can get involved in your assembly, the more resources, the more talents, the more insight, the more you have the intellect and the emotional and economic and skill bank factors that you need to make it work. So don't be hanging back and don't be trying to restrict the number of people in your assembly, thinking that you're going to garner more power or more money for yourselves, because that's not the way it works. The other thing that we keep running into is some little clique will get established and they will be acting as dictators to everybody else. That's not how our power structure flows. And if you're having that trouble in your assembly, you need to get more coordinators established and you need to get a bigger base of membership. And that's the cure for it. So be advised, we need more people, not less. And we need a more egalitarian spirit to prevail for this to succeed. So I wanted to make sure everybody knew that that was a wrong train of thought and that there is no future in that. The other thing, I'm having a momentary brain blank here that came up this week. I'll think of it, but for right now, just realize that everybody has to work toward the betterment of everybody else. We all have to care about the other people. We have to care about the country. And we can't be power mongering and playing corporatist games. We can't be fighting with each other. That's what we've been taught to do all our lives. And we have to turn our back on our indoctrination and see what the real values are so that we work together and are not involved in this out of any self-interest other than the group self-interest. Just like I observed to you all that the reason that we have slavery in the world is that people didn't have the vision to end slavery for everyone. They thought that they could keep certain people enslaved and not suffer enslavement themselves, but they were wrong. When you allow slavery to exist anywhere and you allow anyone to be enslaved, you open the door to be enslaved yourself. And in the same way, if you allow some people to be excluded from their inheritance and their birthright, you open up the door so that you can be excluded from your inheritance and your birthright. And I want to encourage everybody to see that evil, anytime any evil is allowed, it impacts everyone. You cannot enslave even one man without enslaving all men potentially. You can't disinherit one person without opening up the door for everybody to be disinherited. So we have to guard against this kind of thinking that we've been taught that says me, and I'm going to climb up the ladder and I'm going to be king of the mountain. Well, no, that's not the goal. And that's not where we need to go. And the founding fathers saw that very clearly. It's something that we need to see again. Because if we don't, then what we've got facing us is an open air surveillance state. They are well advanced toward turning this into an open air concentration camp where there will be no freedom of thought, no freedom of religion, no freedom of expression at all. Everything will have to conform to what the slave masters want. And we will all just be little slaves in a country that we're supposed to own. So we have to work together, and we cannot let petty differences or fear or irritation stand in the way. We simply can't afford any kind of gossip. We can't afford reckless, slanderous accusations that don't have factual basis. We can't put up with it. We all have to kind of close ranks on these issues and say, no, we're not having it. That's not why we're here. We're not wasting time on it. Bye. And, we've had this whole discussion this past week about people trying to use commercial due process against members of the assembly and against the assemblies themselves. Well, no, we know commercial due process does not apply to interactions between people. Commercial due process, as the name implies, it applies between altercations between businesses and corporate entities, okay? So we're so confused that we're even trying to use problem resolution methods that apply to corporations within the assemblies. And that's just incredibly wrong. This is what we're trying to get away from. We're trying to get back to a law that is the law of people instead of the law of corporations. So we cannot go on being this confused about things. We have to sit and think a moment about how people respond to and get agreement. Because we're not corporations and we're not subject to corporate law. And we need to learn different ways of resolving issues and arguments and how to basically interact with each other. People have forgotten how to interact with each other. We've spent so much time talking on the phone and talking via computer screens that we've forgotten. And we've been treated like corporations for so long and held subject to the foreign law of corporations that we don't know any other law or any other way of dealing with the kinds of interactions that we have. So it's a great learning process, and we all have to learn it.
Yeah, we sure do, Anna. We definitely do. It feels like the clock is ticking, or the hourglass is glued to the table, and I don't know why we're not playing the same symphony. We're not building, we're not building the same house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and part of it is indoctrination. People come on board and they like the new idea, they like the new concept, but then they try to use old tools to it. They try to keep functioning as if they're still part of the old system and everything is compartmentalized, top-down authority and all of the rest of it, and all the assumptions of the corporate model, which no longer apply, but they keep applying it. You see? And as you say, they're building a different kind of house according to different law, different models. And so we can't do it that way. We have to We have to get on board and stay on board with the traditional American government way of doing things, which is people law, not corporate law. And we have to bear with each other and correct each other as we go, because otherwise this is going to become very, very difficult. If we as groups allow gossip and slander, if we just sit back and do nothing and listen to people go on and on and on with hate-filled speech and making completely unjustified statements, and we can't have that. We as a group of people have to say no to that. That's not the way we behave. That's not why we're here. We're not going to tolerate gossip and slander. You need to do that as groups, as leaders, as coordinators. You need to take a stand against gossip of all kinds, because it's very, very disruptive. It's very damaging. This past week, I've been absolutely appalled by people in North Carolina who have never even met the people that they're vilifying. They've never spent 5 minutes talking to these people in their entire lives, and yet they've been so brainwashed and so influenced by gossip that they actually are going out and spreading this manure with no knowledge, no firsthand knowledge at all. So that's an example of just how damaging allowing gossip and slander in your community can be. And it's senseless.
Yeah, it is. Well, as assemblies, we can put a stop to that. And we have to be open to course corrections. It's not a shame to be course corrected. And all of the answers are in your articles, and you're always willing to support and help when we come forward with clean hearts and clean hands trying to do the right thing,
Right. But you have to be trying to do the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
You can't consistently be working some backdoor agenda that's harmful. You can't be hateful. Mm-hmm. Like I say, I cannot understand or help somebody who is just filled with hate and rage and spreading gossip about people they don't even know.
Mm-hmm.
There's a mental disconnect there. There's a lack of mental clarity that would allow someone to just take some vile gossip and run with it about people they don't even know firsthand.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of thing that has brought North Carolina low, because as a group, they didn't take a stance and say, no, we're not doing that. But you are right. As a group, you can make the decision and say, no gossip and slander here. And you're going to have to, because we have every reason to believe that these things are being orchestrated. And suddenly, you're going to hear all sorts of gossip about me. You're going to hear all sorts of gossip about other people. And if you're weak-minded and can be influenced by just plain old BS, then, you're going to get this happening. You're going to have entire groups torn apart by nothing but, just vacuous, made-up crap.
Mm-hmm.